The HBCU Sports Podcast, coming to you in 3, 2. Yeah. We are back once again for the 5th time around. This is the HBCU Sports Podcast. I'm Ken Rashad. He's Jeff Duplessis. And we want to thank you all for taking a few minutes to listen to us ramble and talk about issues that we hope might be important to you as much as they are to us. Before we get started, let's go over a couple of things here. We can be located. This podcast can be located on Spreaker.com, and it is really important that we ask that you all take a moment to follow us. Go to Spreaker.com, and you can do a search for HBCU Sports, and input that. You will be taken to our official Spreaker page. You can follow us, and that will automatically alert you whenever new podcast episodes are uploaded to the website. If you're on the social media networks, platforms, by all means, take a moment to follow us on Twitter. You can follow HBCU Sports at Real HBCU Sports on Twitter. You can also find us on Facebook, HBCU Sports. You can follow yours truly on Twitter at Ken Rashad. That's with 2 N's, at KENN Rashad. I am also on Facebook. Jeff, where are you located on Twitter?
I am at JMO700. That's JAYMO, the number 700, at JMO700.
JMO700.
Yeah.
Okay. Please, yeah. I'm not gonna ask. I'm not gonna
follow me. Please, like me, whatever you call it. I need some love. I'm not getting. I don't get much.
Right.
Nobody tells me. They don't come to me. They only. So. Yeah. I'm desperate, folks.
This is it's important for us to express the fact that this is a donation-based podcast. Like I said, we're still fairly new to this. We haven't quite established any sponsors, if you will. So we ask that you do take a moment. You can go to hbcusports.com/podcast, and you will notice there will be a donation button that you can take a time to donate a few pennies to the podcast. Couple of dollars, whatever the case may be, we would really appreciate it, and it will provide us with some incentive to move forward in this process. So, by all means, take a moment, donate to the podcast. We would really appreciate it if you would. So, with that said, let's get started and talk about, Jeff, the Aggie-Eagle Classic, which, for the most part, for all intents and purposes, is the MEAC Football Championship Game.
Ken, we were talking about before we started here, what's the big stories of, the week and coming up. And I think that's the 800-pound gorilla in the room is the Aggie-Eagle Classic. That's the de facto championship game for the MEAC. And, big game. Right. You got two ranked teams, 2 undefeated teams in conference. A&T, I'm sure they're mad as hornets because they've lost the last 2 years to Central. So, but they got to go on the road. They got to go on the road this time and try to win it and win that championship so they can get in that Celebration Bowl.
Yeah, and this, like I said, it not only is it a championship game, but it is for the most part a playoff game. Now, for the loser, and both coaches have made it pretty clear that they want to be in that Celebration Bowl football game. And given the way things, the way the Celebration Bowl was conducted last year, and A&T benefited from it so many times over as a result of winning that game and getting the national exposure on ABC and everything else that came along with it. Needless to say, they both want to be back in Atlanta, or should I say North Carolina Central would like to be in Atlanta for the Celebration Bowl. Now, as a consolation, the loser of that match will likely get a at-large bid in the FCS playoffs, but, you tell me. I mean, you can compete for a Celebration Bowl championship, in which some may indicate that this is likely a HBCU championship, if you will, playing for an HBCU championship, or you can lose, go to the FCS playoffs for the opportunity to compete for a national FCS or a national football championship. So
I think both coaches have kind of already determined which one they prefer, and I don't blame them. You know, the playoffs are a nice, secondary prize, but I think the Celebration Bowl is definitely the big one that they would love to have. Yeah,
and I think too, for the MEAC, and what really makes this game intriguing is because when you look at how the teams have been bottlenecked over the last couple of years. I think, last year, I think there were like 3 co-champions. The year before that, there were 5 co-champions. and so that is what you are likely going to come up against whenever you have a conference that, one, doesn't have a conference championship game, and 2, when you have a conference that doesn't necessarily allow all of its teams to play against each other in the conference, to where you can kind of eliminate a majority of those teams once you get to the end of the season. Occasionally you might come across with, maybe a 3-way tie, but a 5-way tie, that was just crazy. And then having to go through a tiebreaker scenario, trying to determine who's going to be granted there wasn't a Celebration Bowl, but then at the very least to determine who is going to be the team that's going to represent the conference in the playoffs. And that can be pretty tedious. But in this particular instance, the MEAC lucks out. They got the 2 long teams in the conference that are going to be undefeated. Winner takes all, goes to the Celebration Bowl. Loser likely to get a spot in the FCS playoffs, and we're going to talk about that a little later on because it's some BS going on with these HBCU teams, or should I say the potential for some BS.
What else makes it special, Ken, is the fact that these are 2 schools, 45, 50 miles apart.
Yes, yep.
It's right down I think it's I-40.
Yeah.
They know each other. The players know they're recruited by each other's program, so
they don't like each other either. To be quite
don't
honest,
like each other.
They don't like each other,
and the alumni definitely don't like each other.
No.
But that makes it special because all these kids know each other. They've been recruited by Coach Mack and Coach Broadway. So yeah, it should be a great environment. And it should be a good game.
Yeah,
really good game.
Yeah, and with all due respect to the other teams in the MEAC, look, typically, we talked about this, before we started the podcast, we talked about whether or not we felt the need to discuss any of the other MEAC matchups for this week. And to be honest with you, obviously those teams are playing for pride. There really isn't much to discuss about those other games. This is it. So
right.
You've got you've got the running back in Tariq Cohen, for A&T. You got Malcolm Bell for North Carolina Central. You've got North Carolina coach Rod Broadway, who is a finalist for the Eddie Robinson Award, against another finalist in Jerry Mack. It's gold. That is there are so many juicy nuggets associated with that game. And on top of that, we're going to have the benefit of being able to watch it on TV. It's going to be on ESPN3, and I believe it's going to be broadcast delayed on, I believe, ESPNU. So for those of
I
you,
think you're right, yeah.
If you're not aware, you can watch that game either on the online ESPN3, or you can watch it delayed ESPNU. Check your local listings to see, to get the details as to when that game is played, because as of now, I think it's showing to be TBD, to be determined.
I'm going to show my age here a little bit. Listen to the press conference the other day with Coach Broadway, and they're talking about Tariq Cohen, and someone brought up asking about his time at North Carolina when he was a player. Did he think Tariq Cohen was better than Amos Lawrence? And I don't know if you remember Amos Lawrence or not.
No, I know the name, but I can't say that I remember.
Famous Lawrence.
Amos Famous Lawrence.
Running back for the Tar Heels back in the late 70s, I want to say early 80s, and he emphatically said, I think he's better than Amos Lawrence.
Mm-hmm. So but he would know. He played with him.
He shared a story. He says he remembered talking to Bill Parcells, who said err on the side of production. Because
Right.
he thought Tyreek was
Right.
too small.
Right.
Too small, but he remembered that quote from Process. I said, well, you know what? The coaches kept coming to him, kept saying, let's look at this kid. Look at him. He said, no, he's just too small for us. He's too small. But he gave him a chance, and look, 4 years later, he set all kind of records.
Yeah, and I will say this: Trey Oliver, who was an assistant on the A&T staff, was key in getting Tariq Cohen an opportunity to get on that squad, because it was Trey Oliver who kept on asking Rod Broadway to give this kid a look. And like you said, the rest is history. But again, Rod Broadway, man, we're going to talk about him in a couple of weeks in terms of what his contribution is to the HBCU football world. We spoke about that briefly on the HBCU Sports Forum, and someone asked the question about Rod Broadway's place among all-time HBCU coaches, and I don't know where that number might be, but he definitely should be listed among the without question. So anyway, going to the SWAC and just taking a quick look back on last Saturday. There was the game between Southern and PV, which was the so-called SWAC game of the week, if you will.
Right.
Southern came out on top, and as a result, Southern has kind of catapulted itself to, again, not getting the type of credit that it deserves in terms of the caliber of team that it is.
Right.
Unfortunately, it is not ranked, or that football team is not ranked in the top 25, despite what they've done so far this year. And for Prairie View,
when the team only has 2 losses and both of them are to FBS programs, I think they're being slighted a little bit.
Look,
I think they're a much better team than what their ranking indicates.
Well, look, to North Carolina Central's credit, by the way, if you look at the FCS coaches poll and you look at the stats FCS top 25 poll, I believe and the North Carolina Central is ranked 24th in the stats poll. In the FCS coaches poll, Central is ranked 20th. However, Central was 8-2 on the season, and then when you look at a team like Southern, who was also 8-2. Southern is ranked, and I believe you made me aware of this. I think you said they were ranked 40th?
They're 40th in the FCS coaches poll.
40th.
And 43rd in the stats top 25.
Now that's ridiculous. Now, if you look at let's look at the poll as is, the coaches poll. And this just came out this past week. You have teams, you got Cal Poly at 6-4, ranked 23rd. You have Western Illinois. There's that school again, ranked 6. They're ranked 24th. Their record is 6-4. You have Illinois State, ranked 25th. Their record, Jeff, is 6-5. That's in the FCS coaches poll. Ranked 25th in the nation with a 6-5 record. Now, you mean to tell me a team like Illinois State, ranked at 6-5, deserves to be a top 25 team, but yet you got a team like Southern, ranked 8-2, with losses to Tulane
and ULM,
and have, for the most part, pretty much handled everybody they faced up to this point rather convincingly. Right. I mean,
that tells you a little bit about the coaches.
Well, again, it tells you about
you don't want to bring the R word into it.
Oh, yes, I am. Race.
It is there.
It is race.
No doubt about it.
And I'm gonna say it now. I've been trying to hold back on this, and I'm gonna probably write up on this, because folks need to beware for the BS that could potentially happen when the games are completed Saturday, and the FCS decides to go into the meeting room and determine, because I believe you got 10 automatic bids for each of the conferences in the FCS, and then you have 14 at-large bids that are going to be reserved for at-large bids. And North Carolina, for the MEAC, I think it's safe to say, given where they're ranked right now, the winner of that A&T Central game, obviously the winner's going to the Celebration Bowl. The loser will likely get an at-large bid, but I'm telling you now, there is no reason why Prairie View, and granted, they've got one more game left Saturday against Arkansas Pine Bluff. There is no reason why Prairie View should not be considered check that, not considered, why they should not be given an at-large bid to participate in that tournament. There's no reason for it. If you look at the so-called core values of the NCAA and they're wanting to be all-inclusive of all cultures, you mean to tell me you can't make 2 automatic spots for 2 deserving teams out of the only 2 HBCU conferences in the FCS division?
Ken, I'm gonna be messy here for a second. I'm gonna be messy here. You ready?
Yeah.
Do you think the selection committee penalizes or will penalize the MEAC for the Celebration Bowl?
Do I think they'll? Well, look, they did that last year.
North Carolina A&T may win it, and they'll have 2 losses, and they'll be have a great record. But because they don't want to go to your playoffs, or we're not gonna take a second place team either.
The NCAA showed its true colors last year when the SWAC and MEAC, with the help of ESPN, who went to the NCAA and said, look, we want to have the Celebration Bowl. We want to have this FCS bowl game, the first of its time, of its kind. And we want to make MEAC, the MEAC and the SWAC the feature conferences for that bowl game. The NCAA gave in, and this is just my theory. I'm thinking the NCAA said, you know what? Sure. Yeah, that means they give up, they forfeit their automatic bids, and we don't have to give. That's 2 spots that we can save for 2 other teams.
Right. No, you're probably right.
So in other words,
admit that.
Because I'm going to say it for them. They said those Negro schools have got their bowl games. And they're going to get $1 million for each conference to play on national TV. We don't want them Negro schools to be a part of this. They've already got that. They can't have it both ways, despite the fact that the NCAA has been having it both ways for years now. Right. So look, I don't like to I don't like to go there without cause, but I'm telling you, this is blatant. This is blatant.
I can see the veins in your neck. Yeah.
This is blatant. You can't be the NCAA, this so-called non-profit institution, the institution that has written in its core values. It's it's non-profit.
I know they are.
Yeah, I'm just saying. You're right. I know you know, but yeah, that's what I'm saying. This multi-million-dollar non-profit agency that supposedly has it written in its core values about being all inclusive, Jeff. They want to be all inclusive, and they want to embrace all cultures. We just don't want the MEAC and the SWAC and the Negro institutions to be a part of this. You can't sugarcoat this. And yes, stats and Craig Haley, I'm going there with you too. For Southern University not to be ranked in the top 25, that is a reflection of what your organization, Craig Haley, executive director of the stats, that is a reflection of your organization and what you think about the HBCU conferences in the MEAC and the SWAC. So,
and it's one thing to be just outside the ranking, 26, 27, we have 43 in the stats poll.
Look, like I said, it's blatant. I understand that maybe the commissioners and Thomas and Duershaw probably, I'm sure they've got some thoughts. They probably got thoughts about it, but they're probably not going to go. They're not going to question this. But if this is all about the kids and the experience of the student athletes, then God damn it, give everybody an opportunity to be a part of it. No, God damn it. GOTTDAMMIT. God damn it. That's what I said. And I mean it. Now I ain't taking it back. Anyway. Folks, I'm telling you, the Okie-Doke is in full effect here. It's coming. The MEAC will get that at-large bid, and they will have an opportunity for someone to represent that conference in the FCS playoffs. I am fearful that Prairie View may not get the same opportunity. It's all I'm going to say. Moving on.
All right. Next.
I'm mad. We might need to just stop it right there. But
I tell you, I can see the vein in your neck, man.
Yeah, that's really got me. I'm pretty hot right now. That makes no sense whatsoever. Anyway, let's talk about the Division II playoffs.
Yeah, let's give them some love.
Tuskegee and Winston-Salem State are the 2 HBCUs that are going to be representing the SIAC and the CIAA in the Division II playoffs. Now this is unique in that you got Tuskegee, who did not compete in the SIAC championship game,
right?
And yet, it was Kentucky State versus who did Kentucky State play in that game? Oh my goodness, my mind.
Not Boise State.
No, that's CIAA. See,
that's the other conference.
That's just how irrelevant it was. But anyway, Tuskegee didn't compete in the championship game, but yet they are going to be representing the conference in the playoffs. Whereas
I think Tuskegee's body of work is
I'm not disputing it. The SIAC has itself to blame for that crazy equation in which only the divisional game. Only the divisional games are going to count. That's crazy. But you've got Tuskegee playing against Newberry, and where they were ranked.
You said Newberry?
Newberry. Newberry.
Newberry? No.
Newberry is ranked second in that bracket. Tuskegee is going to be ranked 7th. Winston-Salem State is the other school that's going to be representing the CIAA. They are going to be playing against LIU Post, and Winston-Salem State is also a 7 seed.
Long Island University Post.
Right. And here's the funny thing. If you recall, you remember Tuskegee was struggling trying to find that 10th opponent, and they eventually found one in Virginia State. Reggie Barlow, and he agreed to have his team play against Tuskegee. Virginia State won that game Saturday, and unfortunately, for whatever reason, with an, I believe, 9-2 record, Virginia State did not get an opportunity to compete or an at-large bid into that tournament, and a little disappointed in that, you know.
I think so. I think they deserve to be there.
But I can understand that. At least with
they leave a lot to be determined, a lot to be desired.
But with Winston-Salem State and with Bowie State, I mean, those were two legit schools competing for that conference title. Their body of work in terms of what they did during the course of the year showed off. It paid off. So they deserve the opportunity to play in there. Winston-Salem State winning that CIAA championship game made it to the Division II playoffs. So kudos to them. Good luck to them going forward, and hopefully they'll make a pretty deep run as Tuskegee.
Upset those number 2 seed team. One of them.
It's possible. It's possible. It's possible. It's possible. So we'll continue to monitor that. I believe that first round game for Winston-Salem State is going to be on Saturday, a 12:00 start. And Tuskegee will play Newberry. I believe that game is at 1 o'clock. According to the NCAA website. Okay. Let's pivot once again, and let's go back to Southern University and the unfortunate 5-year probation by the NCAA. Jeff, what?
Ken, I don't know what to say.
But
I know when the NCAA uses the words lack of institutional control, that is something very serious, and it's something they don't play around with.
Yeah, Southern was accused, for those who may not be aware. Southern was cited by the NCAA for lack of institutional control in a report, and this is, I guess, and I don't want to pretend. I mean, this has been an ongoing situation for the longest. I mean, it was APR issues and lost records and I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think this kind of wraps everything up. Everything that we've witnessed or everything that we've read about associated with the APR issues and the bans and so forth, I think this kind of wraps it up. But Southern is accused of improperly certifying more than 200 athletes during a 6-year period in all 15 of their sports. And as a result of the infractions, I believe Southern agreed to basically, and the NCAA accepted a self-imposed penalty, $5,000 fine and scholarship reductions.
What I'd like to know is how many scholarships they're losing. And I haven't seen that yet, the total number of scholarships, and then how many are part of the football program.
Well, yeah, I mean, and I don't know. That's a good question. What exactly are we looking at? Now, I'm guessing those scholarship reductions are going to go across the board. So, I mean, we're not just talking about football here because, again.
No, I know. But,
yeah, but that was for all 15 of their sports.
Right. But if you lose 10 or 15 in football and you lose 1 or 2 in basketball and women's track and stuff, it all adds up.
Now, according to
it's going to impact their ability to compete.
Well, yeah,
I don't doubt that at all.
I mean, look, we're talking about penalties for what? How long was that for?
5 years.
5 years. So I'm saying, yeah, it's going to be long term, and the thing is that it's going to have its impact during the course of the 5 years. But now, and I could be wrong about this, once that ban is over, once those sanctions have ended, you're looking at considerably longer than 5 years for those programs, depending on the impact that they've had for them to, kind of build themselves back up again. So
it doesn't happen overnight.
Right. So you're looking at the potential of obviously the 5-year ban, but the potential impact of that
could go 5 more years,
absolutely.
So you get through a couple of recruiting cycles and are able to bring your talent level back up. Now again, without knowing the number of scholarships, it's kind of hard to say. If it's only 5 for football, it may not be as bad. But if it's 10 or 12, that's now you're looking at a team with a lot less depth over the next few years. From 75 scholarships to maybe 65. So.
Right. And this is a quote now. Roman Branks, who's the interim athletics director at Southern. And this is a quote: "The violations detailed in the public report mostly occurred in the past, and no current student athlete is ineligible as a result of the violations outlined in the public report." And he went on to say, "Southern's corrective actions have demonstrably succeeded in ensuring that Southern properly certifies the eligibility of its student athletes." Quote, "In addition to correcting the problems outlined in this case, Southern's initiative have resulted in recent positive developments with the academic performance program." So, I don't know what that all means, but the good news, that the thing that sticks out most is that the violations were obviously from previous administrations or, previous ADs, previous individuals who are likely no longer with the athletic department. Right. But unfortunately, and I want to ask you, because again, this was one of those things that we talked about previously before we started taping. Is this the result of individuals? Because again, the NCAA indicated a lack of institutional control, and you made an interesting point. Because my question to you was: is this the result of was Southern just flat out just ignoring the rules and they're just flat out cheating and just doing what they want to do? Is this a case where you probably had individuals in roles in which they probably weren't, they probably didn't have the skill set or the experience to do those jobs accordingly? In terms, or in other words, was it ignorant? Well, yeah, I was going to go there. In other words, was it just flat out ignorance? Or is it something else?
I think it was incompetence.
Okay, well, the better word. Well, I mean, ignorance in terms of not knowing what the overall job description is, but I get it. Man, just turn your phone off. But anyway, but you better word, incompetence. Is that what this is, or is this something else?
I think it may be people in the wrong positions and didn't know what they're doing. But you know what? Southern's been playing football and sports for a long time, and there's no reason for that. That should not happen. Okay, you can't control necessarily everything. You can't control, well, I shouldn't say that. You can't control everything, but certain things you have to have full control of. And the NCAA doesn't take that lightly when they say you lack institutional control. I mean, that says it right there in a nutshell. I mean, you have an institution and you can't control what your environment. I mean, it doesn't get any more serious than that, I don't think.
Yeah, well,
other than getting the death penalty.
Well, you know what? I mean, look, given what, now keep in mind, now I don't know, I'm not sure when this goes into effect, but keep in mind, Southern is already facing some infractions right now. I mean, for the football team, people may not be aware now. I think we touched on this previously. As of now, due to the APR sanctions, Southern can compete for the SWAC championship game. But if they win the SWAC championship game, or granted, because right now it's between Grambling and Southern, in the Bayou Classic, and that game will determine who goes to the SWAC championship game. But assuming Southern wins the Bayou Classic and they go to the SWAC championship game and they win that, they can't go to the Celebration Bowl.
Right.
And that is that's unfortunate. And who knows what may happen with that. So anyway, Southern, I hope you guys, man, can get it together, because the last thing we need is for mess like this to continue to happen. And
especially now that things are looking good. We got a great Bayou Classic this year. We got 2 phenomenal teams. I don't want to go back to having a one-sided classic.
Yeah,
somebody 3-8 and somebody 8-2.
Right. I get it. I completely get it. I'm right there with you. And speaking of, you're talking about the phenomenal teams. Let's kind of talk about those phenomenal coaches who are heading those teams. In Broderick Fobbs, in Rod Broadway, and Jerry Mack, who are all finalists for the Eddie Robinson Award.
And there were only 15 finalists, so that's a pretty good ratio.
I'd say. And you look at the names. Rod Broadway, no brainer. We know who he is. Broderick Fobbs, up and coming, and we know the job that he's done at Grambling so far, that he has inherited, and it's been nothing but. I mean, man, you talking about, I'm going to use this term, but you talking about turning shit into sugar. I mean,
it's a family podcast.
Well, I'm just saying, that's what's happened. And but the person who doesn't get enough credit, I think, is Jerry Mack. And I think you were just recently introduced to Jerry Mack, and I think you were rather impressed with him based upon what you told me.
Just listen to him talk. He's sharp. I did a little, background research on him, saw where he came from, and from all indications, he's sharp, man. He's kind of a go-getter. He's on top of things, and I look at those 3 coaches, and I say you got Broadway, the tried and true. But then you got the 2 young guns. You got the old gunslinger in Broadway,
right.
And you got the 2 young guns and Fobbs and Mack. 6 years apart. I think 142, 136. So
the 36, 36 years old.
Around.
Yeah,
well, not necessarily Mack, because he inherited a pretty good program.
Right. But I'm saying, but he's been able to maintain it. But I'm saying Jerry Mack, like you said, young, up and coming, 36 years old, out of Memphis. And I think it would play the year at Jackson State in your neck of the woods.
He did.
And I mean, it's sky's limits for that guy. And to be quite honest with you, wouldn't surprise me at all. Because he's been there 3 years? This is his third year?
Third year, yes.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me at all if he has fewer days at North Carolina Central than he has that he's been there, because that's going to be a guy, when you look at his overall resume in terms of where he's coached, he is going to be he's going to be a one of those coaches that when the off season comes and the season, all the games are played, you know how December goes when coaches are being fired and they're automatically, schools begin to speculate about who the next coach is going to be. Jerry Mack is likely going to be one of those coaches, and
he's
the fact that
a lot of short lists for
right, and when you
FCS
consider the
programs and some FBS programs,
absolutely, and Jerry Mack, but Broderick Fobbs the same way. Will be those coaches where you look at the body of work and what Mack is doing at Central and what Fobbs is doing at Grambling, and when you put in consideration that they're finalists for the Eddie Robinson Award, which only elevates their profiles. They are likely going to be individuals who will be involved in quite a bit of speculation in terms of replacing fired coaches at other programs, like you said, at the FCS and even the FBS division.
Oh, sure, no doubt about it.
Right.
Yeah.
Just on some side notes here.
You want to talk about JSU, coach? Huh?
Yeah, man. We can go there. I mean that was something else.
It was. It was a little unprofessional. Coach Hughes, of course, refused to shake the hand of Coach James Spady after the loss to Alabama A&M last week.
Yeah.
Coach Spady walked up to him. He said, "You're better than this, Coach. You're better than this."
Yeah. No. I saw the video, and I don't know if it was Spady that said that or if it was somebody else off camera or but somebody did say, someone did yell, "You're better than this. You're better than this."
Yeah, you're right.
And then
I have been Spady.
Right.
Then I heard the soundbite with Coach Hughes afterwards, and he said when Spady put his arms around him, he just said he just wanted to get him to kick it off him, throw it off him. So
yeah, but
he was upset.
But Spady, and you look at Spady, and to his credit, it was almost as if Spady was trying to say, "Look, Coach, let's not leave like that." Now, granted, and by all means, I am not making excuses for Hughes. If you saw how that game ended, I can admit, to have to shake hands immediately after what happened. The Jackson State players.
Why he asked his wife apparently, why do we have to shake hands after a game?
Yeah, now that was
it's been done for 100 years. That's why.
Oh my goodness, that was. See, like I said, I'm not trying to make excuses for him. I was trying to explain what happened. That last play of the game where the Jackson State player is trying to reach for the end zone and is trying to get the ball past the plane, and unfortunately fumbles, and A&M player recovers in the end zone, therefore making it a touchback, and it's A&M's ball, game over. Yeah, but so I'll admit, you think you got it, but then all of a sudden the fumble happens and you don't got it. But then to ask the question, why do we have to shake hands? I was about to curse. But anyway.
It's sportsmanship.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, you've been an assistant all this time, and then he alluded to saying something, well, maybe this is just one of those things associated with being a head coach. And I'm thinking, man, come on. Assistant coaches shake hands too, don't they? I mean, you don't have to be an assistant coach to just automatically assume that it's just the right thing to do to want to shake hands at the end of a game.
I was excited when they hired Coach Hughes at Jackson State. I thought it was a good hire.
I still think it's a good hire. Look, I understand he's going to have to make up for it. He's going to have to account for this. And depending on how things go next year, this is going to be probably one of those things that J-State folks will look at and say, man, you already, kind of trying to bail yourself out of a hole with the season that we've had, because again, great defensive team, not doing very well on offense. And for you to not want to take the time to shake the opposing coach's hand, who he admitted himself has experienced his more, look, it's been a struggle for Spady too. Spady is in his third year at that school, and right, and the A&M folks aren't happy. And lucky for Spady, he's got one more year left. Man, hopefully he can turn it around. But Hughes even admitted that Spady is likely a coach who's seen more than his fair share of losses. And despite all of that, you've never heard Spady, and I can kind of call Spady I'm aware of Spady. He and I have had some conversations. He's a good guy, man. And despite all of that, we'll just take the time to shake the man's hand. But I don't know what to say to that. I mean, a person with this SEC background, supposedly, who's probably seen all kinds of defeats. I mean, how do you ask that question? Why do I have to shake his hand?
Yeah. I struggled with it. I struggled with his reasoning behind it, and I just think he should have just let it go.
Well, anyway, that is going to do it all for us, man.
That's it already?
Yeah. We're at that moment. It's just.
So good. I have so much more I want to talk about.
Oh, really? What else did you want to talk about?
You got it. We're out of time. I understand.
I mean, look. It's either you keep going, or they're going to eventually shut us off. But I'm saying, But look, here's some quick points. There's some quick points we can talk about. there's been some questions regarding Devontae Kincaid. He's been struggling. He's the quarterback at Grambling. Michael Haywood made some interesting comments, if you recall, during the SWAC teleconference about the possibility in terms of how they may play against him, and that he is not 100%. He has a noticeable limp, and he isn't as mobile. Thus, according to Coach Haywood at Texas Southern, he is a one-dimensional quarterback. And so it'll be interesting to see how they approach that game. Now, granted, even if Grambling loses against Texas Southern, it doesn't change anything. The Bayou Classic is still for all the marbles. But that was an interesting point that I thought came out of the.
Coach Fobbs claims he's fine, and of course that's coach speak for you. But I think maybe 80% or 75% Kincaid is good enough for to lead Grambling to a victory. What do you think?
Yeah, well, I've talked to a number of Grambling folks in which some wonder if he even needs to play at all. I mean, there is nothing riding. I mean, like I said, no one wants to lose. Grambling doesn't want to lose, but if you lose that game, it doesn't change anything. It doesn't change the course whatsoever regarding the Bayou Classic. In other words, it doesn't change the big picture. You lose that game, the Bayou Classic is still for the marbles. You still win it. You still go to the SWAC championship game. You win it. You go to the Celebration Bowl, which is what they want. But that's kind of what you're looking at in this particular case. So so that's the thing. And then one last thing, we got to take the time to give kudos to Ashley Robinson, who was promoted.
Yeah.
Ashley,
vice president.
He is the vice president and as well as director of athletics, but he's been given the title of vice president. And kudos to Ashley, who is again one of those up and comers. And I say that because you occasionally come across individuals who, when they complain about athletic directors and the things that they're doing or not doing, you always hear them say, we need some new blood. We need to get some people in there who are young and who are vibrant and who can approach things with a different or a unique perspective. Well, Ashley Robinson appears to be one of those individuals. So, Ashley, congratulations to you, man. Keep up the good work. And
yes, sir.
We're pulling for you. So far, so good with the hire in Coach Simmons, and not that I would give them credit for that structure, that new structure that they've got out there, but it sure as hell doesn't hurt. So
maybe he wants to come back home to MVSU and turn their program around.
He tried that once before and he left. He was at AD. He was the AD at Mississippi Valley before he got. Yeah, I'm just saying. So, but I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to go there. That's
we love the Delta Devils. Bro.
That's a totally different. It's a totally different ball of wax. So anyway, that's going to do it. By all means, go to hbcusports.com/podcast. Take a moment to donate to the podcast. We'd really appreciate it. This is Kenn Rashad. He's Jeff Duplessis. We are out. Talk to you later, man.
Later.